Hey, good afternoon, neighbor. Welcome back to the Let's Get Gardening series. This is part 3. We're going to talk about container gardening today. And container gardening is for everyone. Now, if you have a deck, a small patio, or you just want to have a garden in a container, maybe on a windowsill or in your kitchen window, you've got a container garden. Container gardening is for everyone of all ages. You can have young people do it. You can have toddlers do container gardening. You can have people who are very busy have container gardens. I have just a few simple tips. These are things that I follow, and I just like to share these with you today. Again, these are my suggestions. I'm not an expert gardener. I'm not a master gardener, not yet. But I just wanted to share what I use and what I do. As you can see, the pot that's in the picture is a ceramic pot. This is only one example of different types of containers that you can use for your garden. Now, in here, you can see there are no holes in the bottom. So if you were to plant something in there, you'd have to monitor that water usage quite closely. You have to put some rocks in the bottoms for some drainage, so to make sure those roots can breathe when they grow. That would be for small flowers, maybe herbs, and a window that you would be looking at quite often. It could be a different pot inside of this pot. So you could take it out, you could clean this pot, and then you could put it back in. There's so many different containers. Again, these are just a few examples that I have here today. And plants don't care what kind of container or pot they grow in. The important thing is that they have enough space for the roots to spread. A few drainage holes in the bottom or a few rocks in the bottom for drainage. And the holes allow the drainage or the water to drain out. You'll want to make these large enough where the dirt or soil does not clog these holes, so the water can get out a little more quickly. Different types of pots. Well, we're going to talk about some wooden pots. Plastic, terracotta, metal, clay, pottery like we have here in this picture. They also make a pot, excuse me, out of styrofoam. Now, I don't have one of those here. One of my favorite things to grow in, and I did that this year in my garden, these are grow bags. And you can see this is a grow bag, has handles on it. So this is one for strawberries. You can move this around. You can move it from place to place. If you think the sun is incorrect and you've potted it, you can just move it to a different place in your garden, on your porch or on your patio. Now, terracotta pots might dry out quicker than other pots. So you'll need to water the plants more often if they're in a terracotta pot, which is a clay pot. Now, a tip that I use is after you purchase this pot, it's a clay pot is what it is, a terracotta pot, when you bring it home, soak it in a pan of water for a couple of days. And I know that seems like it's a lot, but this will hydrate the pot, and then you can fill this with your favorite soil and put your favorite plants in there. That way, when you water that plant at first, people do this all the time. I've done it in the past. You get those pots, you're excited, you come home and you're going to plant this container garden. So you fill the soil, maybe put some rocks in the bottom, put those plants in, and you water it down good. And you think, okay, I'm good. It's good to go. Well, pretty soon it gets really dry because that pot's going to absorb a lot of water. So it's drawing it from the soil that you've put in there. Thus, it's going to draw it from the plant. Now let's talk about plastic pots. Check to make sure that you have drainage holes in the bottom of that pot. I suggest, and this is my suggestion only, a 1/2 inch wide. And the reason is, again, the smaller holes might clog and deter drainage. It might get a rock stuck in there. It might get too much soil stuck in there, a piece of wood or mulch, and it wouldn't drain as well. They have metal pots. Now, people would think metal pots, but they're more for decorative. Make sure you have holes for drainage. What I do, if I'm going to have it outside and I'm going to use a metal container or pot, I drill holes, and be sure and use the proper safety precautions when you do that. Drill holes in the bottom for that drainage. Drainage is key. Now, depending on how the metal pot is made, it could rust over time due to the water. So it's good to have that drainage. Also, you usually put indoor plants. This is what I put indoor plants in these metal pots. And then that way I bring them in. I can place them around the home, decorate, redecorate, put it back outside. Most of the time what I do in a metal container, I put a plastic pot so I can switch them out fairly easy. I can switch those plants out, put the ones that were in there before outside in the sun for a while, and then just decorate the home, bathroom, whatever you would like to decorate. Wooden pots. Now, these can be decorative or they can be plain. Some are made of cedar, some are made of non-treated wood. Again, the drainage holes are extremely important. Choose the correct soil. Now, I have an earlier video that explains in the series where I discuss the soil in length. So check out that video for more details on soil choice. And you choose the soil that you'd like to put in your pots. Let's talk about healthy plants. Now, healthy plants are a must. Anything can grow in a container, even trees, shrubs. And a lot of trees and shrubs come in containers, obviously, when you buy them. Even the large trees come in huge containers. You can buy a bare root, but they usually come in a container. They'll need the correct size pot. You have flowers, herbs, vegetables are the most common to put on your porch and patio or your deck, even in your windowsill. You can root seeds, put seeds and make seedlings in your windowsill during the fall months, or actually winter, as long as there's enough sun and light. You can mix a few of these plants in the same pot. You can put a tall plant, you can put a hanging type plant that would hang over the side. You can put something that's fluffy in the middle. You can put something bushy, depending on what you want to put in there. You can mix some flowers with the herbs. Vegetables usually like to stay by themselves, but you can put marigolds around vegetables to deter bugs. And select the plants. When you start looking in the nurseries and the big box stores, select the plants that go in the specific area where you have a lot of sun or very little sun, or it may be shade. So certain plants like sun. They like 8 to 10 hours of sun every day, full sun. Some of them like partial sun. They just want a little bit of sun, maybe 6-7 hours a day or less. And some like the shade, and they just want a hint, maybe east sun in the morning, and then they don't want any more. They want to stay in the shade the rest of the day. Also, depending on the area of your that you are in the country or even in the world, where is it best that you put these plants? Shade, no shade, sun. What does it tolerate? There are some small tags in these pots when you buy them with these plants. Pick up the tags, read them, research. Maybe research before you go to the nurseries and see what you would like to plant. Call ahead if you'd like and ask the workers and the employees if they have those certain plants. Some nurseries specialize in native plants. So they know it might be a perennial. It's a native. It's going to handle that heat, or it's going to handle that cold. And it saves you a lot of time and money, especially if you put this gorgeous garden out, and we're talking about, perennials and flowers, and you put out a flower and you think it's going to come back next year, and it doesn't. And you paid a lot of money for it, and you just don't understand why it didn't come back. Now, on the tag, it'll also show how low the temperature can get before it will die. Above those temperatures, it'll survive negative 20 degrees. Okay. Sometime it will, sometime it won't. But I always judge the tags, and I do my research before I get there. I like to get a lot of perennials because I don't want to continue to plant things over and over and over. even if it's in a container. And again, look at the amount of sun. You may want to mix plants that like the sun, but maybe not mix plants with shade lovers and sun lovers. It wouldn't work. Some of the plants are not going to make it. Some of the plants will thrive. That's up to you. And some of the annuals that require shade or partial shade, examples in different areas, it would be impatiens, begonias, caladiums, and there are many others. So just look that up on the web, or you can ask the nurseryman when you're there. Now, annuals, that's something that will not come back every year. That like the sun are geraniums, petunias, verbena, and again, there are many more that you can put out there. All the vegetables and the herbs need full sun. Some will tolerate partial sun, but they like their sun. They need that sun to grow. Now, layer planting. That would be put a planting down of the variety of the heights, and we talked about that. And that goes for even vegetables. Put it down for a variety so it has a great curb appeal. Let's go on to watering. Be sure that you check your container plants every other day or so, depending on the weather, because they're going to dry out quicker. And especially if it's in a grow bag like I have here, it dries out very quick. Strawberries, I have to water them like every other day, and depending on how hot it is outside. Now, feeding your vegetables and your flowers. I personally feed my vegetables and flowers fish emulsion. It's a concentrate, and I mix it up and I dilute it quite a bit. I only feed my plants once every 3 to 4 weeks. I don't do every 2 weeks. That's a personal preference. You can do whatever you'd like to do. Now, let's move on to faded blooms. I know we're moving fast, but we're going to have some other things. Faded blooms. These are things they're dying, they're dead. Pick those off your flower plants, and you can, like marigolds example, you can pick the dead flowers off. You can deadhead it, is what they call it. You deadhead the blooms. Now, you can save the seeds, dry them, and then save them for next season, so you don't have to buy a whole lot of plants. Marigolds are very easy to deadhead and save. I have pounds and pounds of it, and I put it around my vegetable garden, so when those marigolds come up, they say it does deter bugs, and it seems like it works pretty well. I guess they just don't have a real good smell. It's a pretty flower, but they just don't have a great smell. Well, let's just wrap this up for today right now. I appreciate you stopping by, and if you have a minute, I'd like you to subscribe to the channel, like that video, give it a big thumbs up, and down in the comments, let me know how you garden. Is it in containers? And if you do use containers, let me know what type of containers you use and what you put in the containers on your patio or deck or even on your windowsill. I look forward to seeing you next time.